This video is sponsored by Asmodee Digital. Make sure to check the description box down below for some helpful links. Hey folks, Quilly here, and welcome to Let's Try a Game of Thrones, the board game, the digital edition. I've talked about it before. I have the physical version of the Game of Thrones board game, and it is extremely well done. It draws its materials directly from the books as opposed to the TV shows, and it is unbelievably interesting and strategic. It's been out for quite some time now, the physical version I mean, which means you can find incredible amounts of discussions and debates online about the strategy behind this game. Because while it is really simple to play, the core mechanics are so clean, so elegant, but the implications of the strategy is just beyond. We're going to look at it once we get into the game, but it is really impressive. Now, while the core gameplay of this really revolves around mostly, say, moving some armies and doing a little bit of combat, that's not where the true beauty of this game comes from. The true beauty comes from very high-level strategic diplomacy, which you would expect from something like the Game of Thrones setting. For example, you might try to come up with some sort of alliance with your neighbor to fight against someone who's a little bit stronger, which sounds great, except at any given moment, that neighbor might decide, you know what, I'll have a bit easier time if I just stab my friend in the back. Which is why I've often said about the Game of Thrones board game, it's a great game to play with friends if you don't want to be friends with them anymore. Just because it is, like, brilliantly, beautifully cutthroat. We're going to jump in just a second. I do want to say that this video is sponsored by Asmodee Digital, who are behind the digital adaptation of great many of my favorite board games, which is really, really, really nice. I think they've done great work. The specific developer of this game, I have right over here, is Direwolf Digital, and I think they've made a wonderful game with this adaptation. There's a tutorial built in here, and they did do a really good job with the tutorial. You can also access the game rules from inside the game over here. However, and I always recommend this with digital board games, go ahead and download the PDF of the rules for the physical version of the board game. Some of the way, I mean, obviously, that won't sort of explain some of the user interface over here, but it will give you a different context and different explanation than you'll get from the tutorial and the in-game stuff. So between all those things, you should have a really good source of references to get started. Now, because this game has a lot to do with diplomacy and bluffing, it is absolutely best played with human beings, but we're going to just play it against the AI over here. I'm going to leave all the settings as default. We're going to play with all 6 houses, so up to 6 players. We're going to run all 6 over here. There is easy, medium, and hard difficulty. This vassal mode is sort of related to kind of an expansion later on, where effectively you'll make a house neutral, and it gets controlled by the players in the game depending on their position on an influence track. It's a little too complicated for me to talk about right now. I'm just going to leave everything on medium. You can choose the houses that you're going to be assigning various players to. I specifically will choose a house. I'm going to choose House Greyjoy because I think House Greyjoy will let me showcase certain gameplay aspects early on. Very good. I don't think we'll be playing a full game here, but we'll definitely be getting a fair amount of gameplay in. Anyway, let's go ahead and do this. I love this opening pan. I think they did a really beautiful job with this adaptation. You get a little bit of 3D effects going on. You get these nice little pop-ups. Visually, there's a lot happening. Wonderful. All right, let's talk about the core game here. First of all, there is a strategic view that you can pop into to see an overview of the entire map. Very convenient to do that. You can also get it if you sort of scroll out and pop in there and you look around here. All right, so each one of the players represents one of the classic houses in Game of Thrones. We are playing as House Greyjoy, and we're going to be up against House Baratheon, Lannister, Stark, Martell, and Tyrell. And specifically as the Greyjoys here, our biggest concerns are House Stark to the north, because we're fairly close in neighbor. I mean, we control currently Greywater Watch over here, which is, well, not actually adjacent to Winterfell. We can't actually move directly from here to here unless we get some ships in the Bay of Ice. More on that a little bit later. So, I mean, we're going to be a little concerned with House Stark, but perhaps not immediately. More immediately, I would say, is House Lannister, and who doesn't love the idea of beating up on the Lannisters? I mean, come on. So that's where I'm going to focus my attention over here. Now, it is worth noting that even in this AI game over here, you can access this interesting diplomatic screen, and you can sort of request alliances. So, for example, House Tyrell over here. We're nearby. Conceivably, there could be some skirmishing at sea. Let's say we're gonna say, hey, I'd like to offer you an alliance. Hey, and they've accepted. What in-game effect this has? Literally 0. This has no in-game effect whatsoever. I've simply indicated to this player, hey, I'd like to work with you, and they've said, oh sure, I'll totally work with you and be loyal. Whether one of us will stab each other in the back, well, probably will happen at some point. You can also request support because there's interesting ways that you can help each other out in battle, and you can warn other players that someone might be threatening, or a region, or something like that. Really useful in multiplayer because you can use this instead of typing to save a little bit of time, but also the AI does make use of this, which is really, really nice to see. Okay. Every round, there's going to be 3 phases. First is the Westeros phase, where you get events. This is skipped on the first turn, which is why we're not there. Second phase is the planning phase. This is where we issue all of our orders. Every player does this simultaneously and in secret. In the physical version, you've got these little, just a little token, these little discs, well, I was gonna say they're blank on one side. They're not blank. They have your house crest, I guess, on one side, and on the other side is the order you're actually being assigned. In each territory, each little zone, each province that you control, you put down an order, face down in secret. And so all the players can do this simultaneously. And then at the same time, everyone reveals what those orders are. I really like that because it means you're not waiting for the player, you know, just before you, right, just to your right or something like that, to put down all of their orders before you go and put down yours. Everyone does it simultaneously. Then they all get flipped over, at which point then turn order comes up. These influence tracks, we're going to talk about this a little bit more soon, but the first influence track we should mention is the Iron Throne influence track, which determines player order, and this will change over the course of the game. This order is fixed at the start. So for example, as House Greyjoy, we are going to be 5th on the Iron Throne order, so not a lot of influence there. We're going to be a little later in the initiative order for various actions, but we are number 1 in the fiefdom track. We have the best strength. The fiefdom track over here is used to break ties in combat, and the person who's got the most has access to a Valyrian steel blade, which is very potent because it gives us an extra strength in combat. So we have access to that. There's also the King's Court over here, which we are at the very bottom for this. It might be nice to go up on that at some point later on. So I have to issue 4 orders because I control 4 territory. You can see the number 4 over here. So what we're going to do is we're going to plan maybe a little bit of aggression towards the Lannisters. So with that in mind, what I'm going to do is in Iron Man's Bay over here, I have 1 ship in the bay. I'm going to click on this and issue an order. There's 5 different types of orders, and we'll look at all of them in a second. The most commonly used, probably, I assume, well, I was going to say common. The thing is, you are limited in number of tokens. You have sort of 10 basic tokens, and then you have another 5 upgraded versions of them. But to be able to play this, you need a position on the King's Court. See the number of stars over here? This determines how many of these upgraded, more powerful orders you can use. Because I'm down 5th and 6th over here have no stars, we don't get to use these special orders right now, which is disappointing. So I'm going to be able to use all these, and I'm going to have to use a combination, because even if I wanted to do 4 march orders, which allows us to move around, I can't. I've only got 2 of these tokens. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to issue Iron Man's Bay. I have 1 ship. I'm going to use my march order here with the +0 to do that. This will allow me, a march order means that any units in this zone will be able to move to a zone, a province adjacent to where they already are. And you can split them up. If I had 3 units in Iron Man's Bay, I could send 1 over here, I could send 1 over here, I could choose not to move 1, I could move all 3 over here, I could do 2 and 1, so any combination thereof you can do with this march order. My plan is I'm going to march the ship down to the Golden Sound and try to pin the Lannisters in so that they can't escape, and this will give me some good control as well for various raiding and support actions. The other thing I'm going to do in Pike here, in my actual capital, I've got some units that I would like to move out. Now, I might want to leave 1 unit here for some control. Depends on exactly how aggressive I want to be. Well, I think I'm going to do, well, I've got to do the march order with the -1. This means -1 to combat, which is going to make combat a lot harder with these units, but still lets me move them just fine. I'm going to issue this one, and I don't know where we're going to go. Ideally, I think I'd like to grab Riverrun to put some pressure on the Lannisters, but if they move a ton of units into there, then maybe what I'll do is I'll grab Seaguard or Flint's Finger or something instead. We can totally do that. I still have to add an order to Greywater Watch over here. Now, Greywater Watch doesn't have a whole heck of a lot going on. It doesn't even have one of these castles or strongholds. More on that in 1 second. It does provide me some supply, which is going to be useful for bigger armies. We'll see that later on. What I'm going to do here is I'm just going to consolidate power. This is an order you can give to a unit. That unit won't really do anything, but it will generate 1 power for me. Power is listed over here. I currently have 5 power. power is used for a great variety of things. It is used for bidding on these influence tracks. It's also used to defend against the wildlings. And here's the interesting thing about this game. It is a very much like butting heads direct combat kind of game. However, it does have a little bit of a cooperative element. It's sort of like the reverse of a lot of these cooperative games with a traitor element, right? We're talking about like Betrayal at House of the Hill, Dead of Winter, Battlestar Galactica. Those things are sort of games that are inherently cooperative, but there's someone in there who's trying to stab you in the back while you are playing this game. And it's kind of done in secret. Here, it's in reverse, because it is an absolute cutthroat game where you're constantly battling other players, except sometimes the wildlings from beyond the wall attack Westeros, and everyone's got to work together to try to prevent them from doing bad things. But even that has a huge sort of strategic meta element to it because of secret bidding of power to try to combat the wildlings. Hopefully we'll get one of those events here, otherwise we'll still talk about it. Anyway, I'm going to go and consolidate power. This will give me 1 extra power in this area. It will give you more power if you do it in a place that's got crowns. See how Seaguard's got a crown, Pike's got a crown, heck, King's Landing has 2. So if you do consolidate power in King's Landing, you get 1 for the order itself, and then you get 1 extra for each crown, so you get a total of 3. We'll only get 1 over here, but I think it's going to be worthwhile because I don't think I'm going to move my unit out of Greywater Watch. If I had more march orders, then maybe I'd leave Greywater Watch with this unit and, you know, take over Seaguard or something instead, but we'll do what we can. Now, I also have to give an order to ships in the port over here. We haven't talked about the other orders. Let me do that very briefly. The defense order is very simple. You just give it to some units in a province, and they will have extra strength defending against attacks this round. Pretty straightforward. The support order is a little bit tricksy, but incredibly powerful. If you give one of your groups of units a support order, they will be able to add their strength to any combat happening in any adjacent areas. Ships can support army attacks happening on land. However, land units can't support attacks at sea. But this is one of the reasons that ships are so incredibly powerful, because some of these sea zones really touch a lot of adjacent stuff, right? So for example, this Sunset Sea zone is adjacent to Flint's Finger. It's also adjacent over here to Sea Road Marches. So if I were to have ships in Sunset Sea and I did a support action, they would help out any combat in any of those 2 areas, including adjacent sea zone battles as well, which is really, really, really powerful. So that's what support orders do. Raid is kind of special. Raid orders let you remove enemy support, consolidate power, or raid orders in adjacent zones. But again, that means control of the seas is incredibly powerful because you touch so many areas in unexpected ways that allows raids to be incredibly potent. However, in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do another consolidate power over here. Now, normally you can't consolidate power at sea, but this ship is in a port, which is a very special sort of location, so we can consolidate power over here. So those are my 4 orders that are going to be assigned. I'm going to go ahead and confirm that. Now what's going to happen is everyone's going to flip over all their orders, and we're going to see what happens. Now we're going to go into the action phase, and the action phase is sort of divided into 3 separate steps in a sense, because first you resolve all raid orders. So it looks actually like I think there was a raid order of the ships in Golden Sound, but they didn't have anything to raid because there was nothing adjacent to them that was relevant. Now we're going into the march orders phase. All of those march orders are going to be resolved. Then we're going to do consolidate power, because consolidate power can be booped by raids. It can also be booped if you happen to invade a province that was trying to consolidate power. So it's the last thing that happens. Now again, we are doing this in influence track order over here, so it is finally my turn. I have 2 march orders. I get to choose the order that I'm going to do things in. Well, here's a very important thing. If I want to get the units out of Pike, I'm going to have to move them before I move these ships, because normally when you do a march order, you move to an adjacent space, an adjacent area. With ships, land units can't actually move into the sea, but ships act as sort of an instant bridge. We usually refer to it as like a teleporting effect, because units in Pike will be able to move through Iron Man's Bay into any province adjacent to Iron Man's Bay. So you can see here I can move to Flint's Finger, Greywater Watch, Seaguard, or to River Run. River Run is highlighted in red because it would be an attack. This also works as a teleport effect. Well, again, or a long bridge. If I had a ship in Iron Man's Bay, if I also had a ship in Sunset Sea, and heck, if I also had a ship in West Summer Sea, then my units and pike could move from here, through the bay, through the sea, through here, and land, say, on Starfall as just a single move action. Control of the seas is so important in this game. You cannot understate it. I mean, the action, the things that score you victory, happen at land, but control over the seas can help you get there. Speaking of victory, hey, how do you win? Well, these sort of castle-looking things, right? This one here is a stronghold. It's sort of a super castle, and this is a castle over here. There's 2 ways to win the game. First way to win the game, if at any point you control 7 of these, it doesn't matter if they're strongholds or castles, just 7 in total of these constructions, you instantly win the game. The other way is the game is played over 10 rounds. At the end of the 10th round, whoever controls the most of these wins, and there's various rules for tiebreakers in there. So our ultimate goal is to try to control as many of these structures as possible, because that's our route to victory. These structures are also incredibly important because they allow you to muster more units, which is important if you want to have enough troops to kick everyone's butt. So I'm going to move these units over here. Now, the Lannisters did move a footman into Riverrun. A footman's only strength 1. We might be able to kick some butt. We do have the -1 march order over here, so that is going to make that a little harder. But I think I want to go and I want to showcase a battle right away. So do I want to move both? Knights have a strength of 2, so we'd at least start off even. I think I will move the knight in here to start a battle. And my footman over here, I could leave it in pike to keep control over pike, or I can move to take another province. I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm not saying that this is the correct opening move. In fact, it's very likely that I'm not doing this right. But I'm going to move to, say, Seaguard over here, because it's another good location to take control of. If we can grab that, and say the Twins, we will be able to really block off a big part of the continent. So I'm going to have to confirm the march over here, which you're going to do, and now we're going to get a combat that starts. So here's how combat works. We compare the strength of units on both sides. So House Lannister has a strength of 1 because they have a single footman. I have a strength of 1 because I have a knight, which is normally worth 2, but my march order is giving me a -1 over here. So we're tied at a 1. And then each one of us play a house card. This is done entirely in secret. You play it face down and then flip it up. You must play a card, but you have no idea what it is. Now, each one of these cards has an extra strength. For example, if I play Euron Crow's Eye over here, it will add 4 strength to my combat. I'll end up with 5 versus their 1. I could also play someone who has 0. Aaron Damphair over here has a 0, but he's got a special ability. After we reveal our leader cards, I have the option of spending 2 power to play a different one. So Aaron here lets me counter whatever House Lannister does. Let's take a look at what House Lannister might have in their hands. If I click here, I can see a list. This is all the characters that they start with. And as they play cards, then this will be removed from this list. So it is easy to know what your opponents have available to them. Tywin over here, Sir Gregor Clegane, all the way down to Cersei, who's a 0 combat strength, but if she does win her combat, she gets to remove and order someone from the board. Cersei is very interesting. One of the ones you really want to watch out for, sorry, I'm thinking of a different house, never mind. Oh, no, Tyrion, actually. Tyrion is very sneaky because you may force your opponent to play a different house card. He has no other house cards in hand. He cannot use a house card in this combat. Tyrion's only strength 1, but he's actually very, very, very potent. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to play Aaron Damphair because he's actually going to give us a lot of flexibility. If House Lannister ends up playing Cersei over here with a 0, we will win, because we will win this tide because we are higher up on the fiefdom track. That is how we determine combat ties. Non-combat ties are determined by the holder of the Iron Throne, but combat is resolved by your order on the fiefdom track. So I'm going to go and play him. And we're going to see what Lannisters. Okay, the Lannisters have played the Hound. The Hound adds 2 combat strength. I do get a prompt here. Do I want to spend 2 energy to replace Aaron? I think I do, because I would like to win this combat. So I'm going to hit the check mark. I'm going to spend 2 of my crowns, and then choose a new one. I need to go and add at least 1 combat strength, because here's the thing. I own the Valyrian sword right now because I'm number 1 on the fiefdom track, which lets me add +1 to 1 of my combat. So what I can do is I can just play one of my cards here to try to win. Aisha is excellent. She's only strength 1, but she adds extra swords and these keeps. What is the deal with these symbols? If I win this battle in Riverrun, There's currently 1 infantry. That infantry will be forced to be routed. He will have to run to an adjacent friendly location, at which point he will be considered routed. He'll have a white flag. If there's another combat that happens there, he won't be able to run away. He will simply be destroyed and eliminated. However, in regular combat, you can kill units with these swords. What swords do is, if you win, for each sword you had on your card, you instantly kill one of the units on the other side. They don't get to retreat. However, these keep icons over here prevent these casualties. So I only need 1 strength. Aisha, unfortunately, her 2 swords aren't really going to do anything here. Might still be worth using. Yeah, I'll just use Aisha over here. So we'll replace that. We're at skill 2. I will add my Valyrian Steel Blade to add +1 to my side. So now we're tied, but because I'm higher on the fiefdom track, I will win this combat. Boom. Done. I won't cause any casualties because he has his defense, which is unfortunate. So this footman will survive to run away and live another day. He's able to retreat over here because of the ship. The ships basically, cause the adjacency rules to go crazy. So we're going to have a few other combats. We've got House Tyrell attacking House Baratheon. They're going to win thanks to Sir Loras Tyrell beating Brienne of Tarth. Oh, poor Brienne. What else is going to happen? Choosing where to retreat to. Marching out of the sea over there, just taking some control. Marching over here to Harrenhal, taking control there. No more battles. Okay, now it's back to me. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my ship and I'm going to move it into the Golden Sound. I want to take control over the sea zone and pin in the Lannisters if I can. So I'm going to control the march, or confirm the march over here. Now, if we really want to know we can win, we can play Victarion Greyjoy over here. Because if I'm attacking, my ships will get an extra +1 strength. So Greyjoy, this card will be worth effectively 4. The best defensive card that House Lannister can play is also worth a 4, right? If they play Tywin over here, it's worth a 4, so we'd both be at 5, and I would win that tie. Now, this is where the true magic of Game of Thrones comes in. I know that he can play a 4, and I can beat him this way. But he knows that I know that he can play a 4, but I can beat the 4. So maybe he doesn't want to play the 4, so he'll just play one of his lobby cards. But, if I think that's true, that he's going to play low, then I still want to play, just barely strong enough to win. And you get this sort of back and forth dynamic that makes it a little hard to figure out exactly what the correct play is. Balon Greyjoy is a beast, by the way. He is brutal because it does 0 out an opponent's card. He hasn't played, I think I'm just going to play Dagmar here. Played Cersei. I actually expected him to play, who am I thinking of? Tyrion. Because he could force a bit of a card change, but I guess that wouldn't have been a good play. Anyway, good. We get a nice cheap victory over here, and we end up with a sword on our side, which means we'll actually destroy the ship. He won't be able to retreat to his port, which is really good news for us. We now control the Golden Sound, which I think is going to be really useful. The unit in the Reach here had a march, but he decided not to use it. He left the Dornish Marsh to go to Old Town. You can spend a power to keep control over this zone, even without a unit. Normally, areas without a unit... Ooh. Okay, we're getting our first events over here. We'll talk about it in a sec. Normally, areas without a unit, no one controls. However, when you leave a zone, you can spend 1 power to keep control over it. However, someone else can march into it and then take control at that point. So it's a little bit risky, because you're not defending the province, but you might still get some benefit out of it. Okay, so we're now in round 2, which means for the first time we are getting the Westeros phase. What we do is we draw 3 cards. There's 3 different decks. We draw 1 from each. And so what we did is we got mustering over here. We can recruit new units in strongholds and castles. That's going to be, I think, very good for me. We've got Clash of Kings, which is going to mean we're going to be bidding on the influence tracks. And the wildlings are going to attack, which is great because we get to show that off right away. So, first step is going to be the mustering, and here's how it's going to work. So opponents are mustering because it is done in order here. So here, going a little bit later can be kind of useful. So now, for every castle and stronghold we control, we get to muster. Now, Pike is my capital. It has my special house crest over here. This means as long as enemies aren't in Pike, which would be fairly hard for them to do because of our sea control and things. As long as there's no enemies in Pike itself, I control it, which means I can muster here. Now, this is a stronghold, which means I can muster 2 points worth of units. Footmen are 1, knights are 2, ships are 1, siege engines are 2, and you can also upgrade. Footmen can be upgraded to either a knight or a siege engine. Now, you can, so footmen are 1 strength, knights are 2 strength, but cost twice as much. So what's the advantage to having knights versus just building twice as many footmen? Well, the reason you would do it is because there are certain supply limits. A single unit in an area never costs you supply. It's cool, it's chill, you know, it's lightweight enough that it can just feed itself off the land, or, you know, I don't know, maybe it's, you know, it's harassing some villagers for some chicken or something like that, right? So a single unit somewhere is fine, but any area where you have 2 or more units, that's referred to as an army, even at sea. You know, I mean, you'd call it a fleet, but in game terms, it's referred to as an army. And you are limited on how many armies you can have. Over here, this is our supply. I can currently have 4 armies available to myself, and some of them, I'm limited, some of them having 2 units, and some having 3. The number of stuff you can have, your supply track is determined, there we go, here's the supply, by how many provinces you control that have the little supply icon, the little barrel right over here. So I have 3 of them. In fact, most of the players have, oh, actually I have 4. Sorry, my bad, I have 4. I have 4 of these barrels, which means I should be here. Supply is only recalculated when the supply event is drawn from the deck. The only time you get punished for having too many or too large of an army is if that card gets drawn and you don't have enough supply. So it only gets recalculated when those things happen. So if we were to draw that right now, I would be up here at 4, and I could actually run 4 separate armies. So yeah, here, I guess I'm at level 2, but I actually own level 4. So I could have 4 armies. Currently, I'm over here, which means I can have 3 armies, 1 of a side of 3. And managing that's important. And anyway, all that is to bring us back to the idea, why would you not just mass footmen? Because they will oversupply you, whereas knights are a little bit more efficient. There's a limit. You only have access to 5 knights, 10 footmen, 6 ships. Siege engines are kind of special. They have 0 strength in regular combat, but they have 4 strength if they are attacking a castle or a stronghold. Siege engines can be used very strategically for, you know, sudden aggressive moves, but aren't quite as, like, generically good as just knights. Anyway, I have to muster. In Pike, I'm definitely going to muster at least 1 ship. Now, by mustering a ship, you can muster it into an adjacent sea zone or into a port. And this is particularly important because if an enemy controlled this sea zone, I wouldn't be able to muster any ships into it. I'd muster them into the port, I'd maybe get up to a critical mass, and then I would move out. I control this land, so I control the port over here. But I think I am going to deploy directly into Iron Man's Bay. Advantage of this is it will give me movement options for my units going forward, which is lovely. I have a 2nd muster point in Pike. I could get a footman, I could also just get another ship. I'm going to get a footman, just because now I'll be able to issue orders over here, and I might use it to consolidate power. I can muster in River Run. Here I'm going to have to... Is that a stronghold? What is a stronghold? I didn't realize that. Then I'm going to get another knight, that's for sure. That's going to be really nice. And in Seaguard over here, that is also a stronghold. Oh yeah, I can see like the double keep now. There you go. Whereas this over here is a castle. So by holding Seaguard here, I can deploy another knight, or I could upgrade this infantry into a knight and then deploy another footman, but like it comes out to the same. So either way, I will end up with a knight and a footman over here, which I'm pretty pleased with. So we're going to go ahead and do that. More mustering is happening. High Garden is last person to act. Now we're going to get Clash of Kings. Bid on the 3 influence tracks. So, again, the influence tracks are the Iron Throne. Higher up, the earlier in the turn order you go, which is really nice for, you know, using raids to cancel other people's actions, or maybe to attack before someone else does, in strategic ways. And if you're at the top, you get to decide tie breaks for things that happen outside of combat. But we have a limited. We only have 5 power, although we have slightly more than everyone else, which is interesting. If we did control the Iron Throne, what would be amazing is that we could use that tie-breaking ability to maybe get ourselves in a better position on the other 2 tracks. So, for the sake of argument, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bid 3 on the Iron Throne over here. And that is going to win us. Turns out I could have bid 2. Damn, that sucks. But that means we are going to be at the top. and we get to break ties, which is going to include choosing the turn order of everyone else over here. Actually, that's not true. Whoever was holding the Iron Throne before I took over got to determine the order of the ties over here, everyone that had a 1. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bid 1 for the Valyrian Steel Sword. Awesome. No one bid more than me. And yeah, I can reorder things. So House Baratheon and House Tyrell are at the bottom. I can choose which order. I don't know, we'll do that. And then over here I can choose the order. I'm going to keep myself at the top. And other than that, well, I'm going to put House Lannister as low as it can go. So that's as low as it can go over here. That way, if anyone else is attacking House Lannister, other than House Baratheon and Tyrell, they will win ties and combats against them. Okay, I'm really pleased with this. And then we've got the Valyrian Steel Sword for the +1 as well. And I'm going to bid 1 here in King's Court. Excellent! This is great. Now, wildlings, it's going to be a bit of a problem, but hold on that. And now I can re-drag it. Well, I'm going to leave myself at the top. The Lannisters we're going to put down at the very bottom, because screw them. And actually Stark as well, we'll put them down, because those are the people we're most likely to get involved with over here. So I think that's going to be fairly nice. So let's lock that in. Great stuff. So now we have huge control over the game. However, the wildlings are attacking. So, oh! I didn't get a chance to explain because I have 0. I didn't actually have the option to bid over here. So the wildlings were attacking, luckily with only a strength of 2. This triggered very early. A lot of these Westeros event cards have a wildling symbol on them, which increases the wildling strength by 2 every time you draw one of those. We happened to not draw one of those cards, but we did draw the wildlings attack cards. They did attack the strength of 2. Just a little prodding attack, nothing major. Every one of the players has to secretly bid a certain amount of power to contribute to defending versus the wildling. You total up all this power, and if we get more than the wildlings, then we defeat them. And the way this always works is, if we don't defeat the wildlings, bad things happen. Not only that, but if we lose against the wildlings, whoever bid the least gets super punished. Similarly, if we do beat the wildlings, sometimes good things happen, and more importantly, whoever bid the most gets something good to happen to them. So you're in this interesting position where a lot of the times you want to bid as little as possible to not waste power, but if you think you're going to win versus the wildlings, then maybe you'd like to bid enough for you to have bid the most and therefore get the biggest reward. But how much is too much? You get all this kind of mechanic. Or if you think you might lose against the wildlings, you want to bid, again, as little as possible, but you don't want to bid the least because then you'll get punished. So it keeps coming to the cyclical, like, I know that you know that I know that you know that I know that you know that I know that you're going to bid this. Beautiful, beautiful game. Okay, so I control 7 areas right now, which is a pretty good situation. We've got a total of where am I? Oh, down here. 3 buildings. So does Tyrell and Stark. Everyone else is a little further behind. Again, we need 7 to win outright, or we just have to have the most when we get to the end of the turn timer. Controlling more of these buildings means you also muster more, right? Because when you get the muster card that comes up, you generate more units because of all these structures you control. The fact that we control 3 strongholds is really wonderful because we get double muster points from there, whereas the castles aren't worth quite as much. Because I do have stars on the King's Court here, I can now use these super orders, which are pretty good. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to consolidate order with the special power over here in Pike. So I'm going to get 1 power from this order, plus an extra one because there's a crown, except that this special order lets me muster instead, which means rather than getting some extra crowns, I'm going to do some mass mustering in Pike. Because of the stronghold. Well, I guess I could do it somewhere else. It's just a regular muster. If I don't care about the power, maybe actually, hold on. I'm going to propose, maybe in a river run, I use this. We'll use it to muster, and maybe we'll do something like, we could even consider getting a siege engine and going after Lannisport or something really aggressive like that. I don't know. What I'm going to do, I think, in the Golden Sound is I'm going to set up a raid. So the special raid lets us also blow up defense orders. I don't need that. I'm going to do a regular raid over here. If they consolidate power, Or if they are going to do their own raids over here, we're going to hopefully blow them up. In fact, we'll get to act first, so we'll get first priority, because if they decide to do a raid in Lannisport, they can blow up my consolidate power and actually steal power from me. But I will get to raid them first and defend that. I'll also get to raid and screw up their own consolidate powers, which I think is going to be really good for me. We should probably plan an attack somewhere. I've got some extra units kicking around over here. I propose in Seaguard we do a march. I can play up to 3 of these Star Orders, so I think I'm going to do the +1 march. I'm just going to do here, we might go to the Twins, we might go to Moat Caitlin. That's a possibility. We will see. It is worth noting that there is an order, like you can choose what order you do things in, and units can move more than once. For example, if I do, and I think I will do this just to showcase this, I'm going to do a March Order -1 over here in Pike. And what I'll plan on doing is I'll move from here into Seaguard, and then do the March in Seaguard, which will let me move all of these units if I want, which will be okay. Greywater Watch, I think I'm going to move you to this keep as well. So, I'll do the +0, because we actually might change our mind and go after Moat Caitlin, depending on how certain things shake up. The interesting thing here, because we've got some sea control... Oh, you know what? Let me make a change of plans here. If I want to move some ships instead. See, I only have so many move orders. So maybe I'll stay. Maybe what I'll do is I'll just consolidate over here rather than move you. Yeah. I'll move the infantry, the footmen out of here to Iron Man's Bay. I think that's probably going to be the plan. You'll just consolidate because you can, and over here, what I'll do is I could set up another raid, but I think what I'll do is I'll set up a support action. So any combat that happens anywhere adjacent to the sea zone, we'll be able to add our ship, so that's +1, and it's the +1 version of the support, so it'll be an extra +1, which is great. Now, we are at the top of the order, so we're going to be going first. I also control the Messenger Raven, which means I have a very special option over here. I can either look at the top card of the Wildling deck and put it at the bottom of the deck if I want, or leave it there. The other thing I can do is I can replace an order token. This is very powerful as sort of a meta activity to swap some of your tokens around to take better advantage of what our opponents are doing. For example, actually over here, there is a raid happening. Now, if I didn't have my own raid ready to cancel that, I might do a switch of orders to prevent them from eating this token. But as it is, we're going to be fine. He's got a raid token over here, which is going to be a little annoying because he's actually going to go and blow up my consolidate power. Although he might target White Harbor instead. But I think what I'm going to do, actually, maybe I will replace this order. I was going to look at the deck, but in Greywater Watch... Nope. Hang on. Cancel. Greywater Watch, thank you. I could switch it to a raid so I can counter his raid, but that doesn't actually matter too much. He's got a march over here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to change Greywater Watch to a defense token in case these guys are going to somehow come at me. If they've got sea control, they might be able to do that. All right, now what I want to do, my raid order, I've only got the one. I'm going to click here, and I absolutely want to raid Lannisport to cancel their own raid token. Very important that we went first there. That was huge for us. That raid didn't do anything because I don't think it had anything adjacent to raid. So yeah, because see, here's the thing. Stark controlled the Bay of Ice, which means the army in Winterfell can just walk to Moat Caitlin, but they can also land anywhere over here, including including Flint's Fingers, Greywater Watch, because effectively the Bay of Ice is adjacent to all these things, so Winterfell is adjacent to all these things. All right, we're going to do our march orders now. They can't just march on to Pike because we do have some ships here. I mean, they don't have ships here either, so Pike is very safe. So what I'm going to do to start off with is I'm going to wait on these. I'm going to take this unit here, and we're going to set up for Lannisport for next turn. I'm going to land on Iron Man's Bay instead, giving us an extra building, victory point, somewhere else to muster from. Seems like a great idea. Or sorry, not Flint's Finger. Starfall, they're doing a big movement via sea to land on Storm's End, while leaving a token there, so they still have control over Starfall, even though it's not defended. House Stark is marching from Winterfell. Well, they're going this way, through the Shivering Sea, onto Widow's Watch. They didn't have to spend a power to keep control of Winterfell because it's got their House Crest, so they won't lose that at all. House Baratheon is moving from Dragonstone all the way to the fingers. And there's also going to be a battle. House Baratheon is attacking House Martell at Storm's End. House Martell is going to defend with the Red Viper, and has got some swords to provide to generate some casualties as well. That was really bad for Baratheon. They lost one of their Kniggets. And Patchface, if he wins a combat... Oh, well, Patchface regardless makes you discard something, which is really good. I think that's what it was. It went kind of fast. I don't have all the cards memorized. I'm sorry. I know that's a huge disappointment to you guys. Okay, so we can do a march action out of here. We can march with one or both units, and we can march to anywhere these places sort of adjacent. I can even jump on Lannisport, but it's a little strong. I can even jump, notice, I can attack Sea Road marches over here because of the sea connections, right? Through Iron Man's Bay, through the Golden Sound to land over here. I kind of like the idea of jumping on Moat Caitlin. I think I will leave a unit behind. I'm just going to move the Knight forward. He does have the +1 attack. Unless I want to move to the Twins. Actually, no one can attack Seaguard. Because I have control over the sea. I don't have to leave a unit here. I'm going to march you to the Twins. There's a bridge, so we can cross the river here. I'm going to control the march. Confirm that. I am going to spend a power to retain control over here. We'll get prompted at some point. Okay. House Stark is who we're fighting. Let's take a look at their cards. Their best card is Eddard Stark, probably at strength 4, lots of casualty generation. Robb Stark has bonuses if he wins. Roose is if he loses, it regenerates his hand. It's really nice. He can basically, Stark can play his power cards, then play Roose to reshuffle things, which is pretty good. I'm not really expecting a big power move over here. We could Balon. You know what? I think that's fine. Because Balon will... yeah. I mean, whether we use Balon now or save, or, use our big power now is effectively the same. We'll use Balon. I have the option of causing him to discard this. No reason to... Oh, no, sorry. It doesn't discard it. It sets his strength to 0. That's the thing. House Greyjoy probably has the best house cards for winning battle. They're really, really strong at this. Their starting position in certain ways might be a little bit weaker, but their cards are super duper strong. Very, very, very strong house, especially if you want to get into a lot of fighting. You don't have to be quite as political because you're so strong on your own. Stannis! Alright, they're retreating to Blackwater. Lannisters are going to be attacking the Reach and reinforcing Lannisport. I think they can see what is happening here. Tywin obliterates Melisandre, and yeah, if Tywin wins, he gains 2 power. This is a really swell card. Doesn't make him stronger in combat, but gives him other mechanics. But I mean, that makes sense for Lannister, right? You can see every house has got a slightly different vibe with certain things. Okay, we are going to yeah, we're going to go and do this. We could consolidate for some extra power, and I don't have any, which would be nice, but I'm going to muster over here. And I'm going to muster a siege engine, because my intention is to use the +4 combat strength from the siege engine when attacking a structure to go and see if we can raid Lannisport. Might not be a brilliant idea, but it's what I'm going to do. Oh, I get more mustering over here. Well, everyone gets mustering. And, oh, the wildlings are going to attack again. I can't build more of these units, but I can go ahead and deploy some ships, which I'm going to do, actually. In fact, I'm going to... There we go. That's going to spread out there. We do have our army limitations here. We really need our supply to get recalculated, because we will get some more stuff, which would be really nice to do. We're going to muster over here. I'm just going to get a knight. We can muster over here. However... it doesn't want me to generate extra dudes over here because we are at our army limit. So I can at least upgrade my footman to a knight, and that's still going to be okay. So pretty decent muster, but we're really hurting for the fact that we haven't recalculated our supply yet. We're going to do one more battle, and then we're going to be ending this video here. We're going to try to see if we can take Lannisport. Whether or not that's a correct strategy long term, I don't know, but it's certainly what we're going to attempt over here. But I think the computer even has seen what is happening here. Ooh, they're upgrading some stuff. So, Dark Wings, Dark Words. This gives a special event. The holder of the Messenger Raven, which is me, gets to choose one of the following. We can bid. I don't think I want to bid since I control everything. Everyone collects power, which I'm totally going to go for, because the wildlings are going to attack. It's not going to be very powerful, but I have no power right now, and I should gain a decent amount. I mean, everyone's going to gain some, but there we go. We've got some. Now, the wildlings are going to attack. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bid 2 over here. Because I don't think... Oh, no one bid anything. That's amazing. If I had bid 0, we would have lost, and I think all of us would have taken the hit for the worst. Maybe I get to choose a tiebreaker. I'm not sure about that. If I had bid 1, we would have lost, but I would have been immune to the worst. But here I bid 2, which means we win, and I also bid the most, so I get the bonus. The wildlings immediately attack again with a strength of 6. You do not participate in the bidding against this attack or receive any rewards or penalties. So I beat a strength 2 wildling attacks. Everyone else now has to beat a strength 6 wildling attack. They lose... Okay, so they bid a total of 5 power. They spent that power. It's gone. So they spent 5 power. They still lose. So everyone, but not me because I'm immune to it, destroys one of their units. And the lowest bidder, which is going to be over here, destroy 2 of their units. Amazing. Choose... Oh, yeah, so I get to choose. Well, that's going to be pretty easy to do, isn't it? Because here's the thing. The Lannisters... So the Lannisters and the Tyrells are both tied at 0. I'm going to choose that the Lannisters are the loser. So they're going to have to trash more of their units, which is going to be very relevant to me because I'm about to attack the Lannisters. Oh. Okay, we're only playing against medium AI over here. And we did do a really good opening move with spending these points. It's going to be really good. Are we in a better situation overall? I mean, we probably have a bit of a good edge, but it is still far from done. Planning phase over here. So I know for sure I want to attack from here. In fact, I'm going to say I want to do the +1 attack. And what I'm going to do, from the Golden Sound, I'm going to do a +1 support. Normally you can raid to blow up supports, but land units cannot raid at the sea. So because these guys, and you can't raid from the port over here either, I don't think. I may be wrong about that, actually. It's possible he might be able to raid from the port and blow up the support. But if that happens, that happens. But we're setting ourselves up to give ourselves maximum amount of points to attack Lannisport with. What else might I want to do? I could move you out of here, which I think might be a good idea. If we could grab another keep somewhere along the way, that might be nice. But also moving some of our ships out of this area might also be helpful. I kind of like that idea, actually. I think I'm going to do a -1 muster from here to move some ships maybe out to Sunset Sea. I think I like that. What else? I'm just going to try to go quick here because we're just going to try to finish things off. The twins, maybe what I'll do is I'll consolidate power there because you have a crown. What we can do actually is we can... Oh no, sorry, I can't do a double action over there. Maybe I'll go ahead and we'll do a free muster in this spot, which seems okay. Or, you know what? Change of plans. Sorry. I might do a consolidate here just for the power. Instead, what I'll do is I'll use the super consolidate to get a free muster at Moat Caitlin so I can put out an extra unit over there. Although, no, I can't because of our army limit. Because we literally can't spawn anything else. We should do some raiding, actually. Raid there. What would be really nice is I had the option of raiding to blow up a defense token over here. I could raid here instead of supporting, but I think this is going to be okay. At the port here, I'm just going to consolidate for the points, not a muster. That's going to be fine. Flint's Finger needs something. We could set up a support in case I think Greywater Watch is going to be attacked. Or I could just do some local defense over here. There's no point in doing a raid. I'll just do a local defense. I think I'll do a local defense in Greywater Watch as well. We'll confirm those orders. I don't know if those are the correct plays. I'm just trying to finish my turn. I want to do the 1 attack against Lannisport, and then we'll be wrapping this up. I'd aim to make this a 30-minute video, and we're going to be nearly an hour. We could do a swap. Okay, because I could have swapped to do some strategic raiding somewhere. But I don't think we need to. We'll take a look at the top deck of the Wildlings. So we know what the next event is going to be. It's going to be Silence of the Wall. We know the... Oh, literally nothing's going to happen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this at the top of the deck. I know that the next Wildling card does nothing. So the next time the Wildlings attack, I can bid 0 and be 100% safe. So we only have 1 raid action, and we've got nothing to raid with it, so we'll just lock that in. Everyone else is going to do their raiding actions, and then it's going to come to us for the very first march, and we're going to immediately march on Lannisport and see what we can do. And if we do that, we absolutely just eliminate the Lannisters from play. Now, the fact of the matter is, the Lannisters are already pretty much beat up and behind. I mean, they still hold 3 structures, but they're really, really, really pinned in. And so if I want to maximize my chance of winning, what I should really do is target whoever I think is doing the best. I mean, House Martell's up to 4 structures. Maybe I want to start considering them. But I like the idea of delivering a killing blow to the Lannisters. What I'm going to do is I'm going to move absolutely everything out of Riverrun into Lannisport. I'm not going to mess around over here. We're going to go for the max. Boom. I will spend to hold control over here because no one can actually move into Riverrun this turn because there's no march action over here, for example. I've got control of the sea, so I know I'm not going to lose it, so I may as well spend a power to hang on to it because I'll still benefit from it for the purpose of supply and maybe gain crowns depending on what events come up. So it's currently 9 versus 7 power-wise, except, oh look, I get a ton of support. So our knights are worth 2 each. The siege engines are worth 4 only because I am attacking and I'm attacking a place with a castle or a stronghold. Siege engines, again, are very specialized, not always that useful, but they're going to be there. We got +1 from the March Order, and I'm supporting from the Golden Sound. I've got 2 ships and a +1 for a total of 3. So I've got a 5-point edge as is. So the only question is, does House Lannister have a card that he could use? See, these are grayed out because they already used them. Do they have a card that does something weird? He can use Tyrion to change my dude. He's not attacking, so he can put in 3 strength, which is enough, or you can use Tyrion to swap my dude, which doesn't really make a difference. I'll go ahead and just play Theon, because he's the lowest number currently. There we go, he's going to do that, which doesn't matter. Click to continue. What I guess, actually, what I maybe should have done is played someone with swords to get a kill, right? Killing some of these units, eliminating them, may have been more valuable than just saving my power cards. But I'm kind of okay with this. So there's going to be some other combat going on over here. But yeah, we're in a great place. We control 5 castles. All we need to do is grab 2 more to win. It's a possibility. If I'd played slightly, like, maybe I shouldn't have put everyone in there. I should have left someone in Riverrun. I should have just moved 1 knight and the catapult over here. And then kept someone over here and set up for, how about a move on Harrenhal? Look, if I'd kept a unit in Riverrun, actually, I didn't realize it was empty. I could have, as part of the same march, I could have moved 1 person to Harrenhal and taken that. I was just focused on Lannisport for the video, but that would have brought us up to 6 holdings immediately. We would only need to snag 1 more to win, which is crazy good, actually. We've got march actions available over here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and move both ships out to the Sunset Sea, and then they can redeploy somewhere else afterwards. Confirm that. Now, it is worth noting, I don't have anyone in Iron's Man Bay, which means I can't transport units the same way as before, but that's okay. Okay, I think that'll bring us to the end of this particular video. I think the Game of Thrones physical board game is excellent. I think this digital adaptation is perfect. I've got 0 complaints. The user interface seems to work really well. It's easy to understand. It looks lovely. There's little sound effects. I was going to say there's great art, but I mean, effectively, it's the same art as the board game, which is nice to start off with. This is a really, really good digital adaptation of a physical board game, and I'm looking forward to playing this with some friends. This is sponsored by Asmodee Digital, and they had originally wanted me to play a multiplayer game and, you know, record it. I'm like, I don't know, I feel weird doing that. Because I didn't think I'd be able to do the right amount of commentary. So I apologize that maybe the gameplay is not as interesting as if I'd played against human beings, but hopefully the explanation is good. If you check the links down in the description, you can get useful info where you can get the game and anything else I might have forgotten to say over the course of this video. Each one of the houses feels very different to play, partially because well, it's all kinds of things, right? They have wildly different house cards, so their combat feels very different, their tricks feel very different. Their starting position and their resources has a massive impact on how they play, as well as your neighbors. You know, so if you're playing as the Lannisters, for example, you know you're going to have to be dealing with the nonsense that's going to come out of Greyjoy. If you're playing as the Starks, you actually have a little bit more of a slower burn going on. You know you're going to have to deal with the Greyjoys at some point, obviously, because they're right here. But they might be busy early on with the Lannisters. In fact, a little bit of an early alliance between you two is kind of good. You can solidify just grabbing some of your empty terrain nearby, and maybe put some pressure on the Baratheons over here, for example. Well, the Baratheons are more down here, but you can fight over more of the neutral territory. You might be much more happy just dealing with that, while at the same time developing a lot of power, and which maybe you'll use against the wildlings, because, you know, this is your job in the north to defend against the wildlings. Maybe. I don't know. So I do quite like that they've got significantly different vibes as you play. Anyway, that is this, folks. Thank you very much for watching. Thanks to Asmodee for sponsoring this video. And again, check the description box down below, because I probably forgot to say something in this video that I was supposed to do. See you next time, folks. Bye-bye.